I had a similar experience. I mean, when I was growing up, like we were one of the only black families in the whole town or whatever, which is still, you know, well over 30,000 people. It's still a lot of people. And I think my public school had, you know, like a couple thousand kids, and there was only one other black child in my school.
How did that affect you?
Well, you know, like I had to deal with many racist things, occurrences, we'll call them.
Now, were they overtly racist, or were they just subtleties? Was it the type of thing that you thought, oh well, that just comes with the territory, or did you really take some of those things to heart?
To be honest, like when I really think about my life, like I think I did take those things to heart, but at the time, you just kind of like pass it over because you want to feel accepted. You want to feel like you're part of the crew. You want to feel like you belong somewhere. And the day that second black person came to my school, by now I'm grade 7, grade 8. Like I'm near the end of my education there, and you know, we were friends day one. We clicked right away.
So was it like you just looked at each other and was this sudden?
It was like, yes, another one. But growing up, I'll tell you where I grew up. I grew up in Stouffville. I grew up in Scarborough, which was very multicultural. I can't talk right now.
Multicultural.
Scarborough was very multicultural at the time. A lot of black people, and it was a culture shock to me to move to Stouffville and not a single black person.
Yeah.
I did have to deal with some extreme things though. It was night and day from moving from Scarborough to Stouffville, night and day.
So would you say it was a benefit, or like did it help you, or as you were growing to be stronger and more resilient, or do you think it actually was more negative, that you would have been better off growing up in Scarborough where you could connect with more people?
I believe in life that we have to figure out what our purpose is, and a part of that purpose comes from where you're placed. I didn't have the opportunity or the decision to say, no, I want to stay in Scarborough. So it was kind of forced on me at the time, and when you're going through it, you don't really think about it. But looking back over it now, I think that it was just as positive as living in a multicultural place. And the reason why is because I believe that my purpose is reconciliation, to reconcile, bring peace in different places. And one of the unique perspectives that I have, especially, you know, my mom is white, my dad is black, and now, you know, having these extreme racial experiences, like I'm talking extreme, like very extreme, like beyond the normal racist thing of someone just slandering you. I mean, extreme racism.
So you actually experienced that?
Yeah, like if I didn't have these perspectives, I could be one of these bitter black people that just has this chip over my shoulder. My generation's been oppressed, and my ancestors were oppressed, and white people owe me stuff, or whatever the case is, right? But I didn't grow up with that perspective. I got to see best of both worlds, and for me, my final conclusion, like I can look back over my life and attest that when I see people, I don't see color. I just see people. I'm like, I might have to side now with these tendencies that have been grown up on me, like, okay, black people are more prone to listen to hip-hop and stuff, so, you know, I gotta act one way when I'm with them, and white people are more prim and proper, and, you know, tea time, and that's me being ignorant, but, like, that's the truth. Like, you get this, like, so what I'm saying is, like, racism, what I found out, finally, racism really and truly is a learned behavior.
If we can learn it, we can unlearn it.
Exactly. But, like, I had to deal with, like, silly things. Like, the first racist occurrence that I can remember was, like, this little boy, we're probably grade 2 or whatever, but calling me Pooh Boy, calling me Chocolate Man or whatever, like, these kind of things. It's silly, but, you know, it's hurtful, because at the time, you're like, what? Like, think about poo. Think about, I know it's gross, but like, that equates to like this worthless thing that is supposed to be discarded.
Yeah, but chocolate's really good. You were
is-
focusing on the wrong thing.
So
Everybody loves chocolate.
you know, like, there's this thing, like, but even at that, like, it's like, chocolate is a different substance. I am a human, right? So what gives you the right to look down and like, so that anger did rise up in me. It's not something that I carried and like, you know, with the rest of my life and said, oh, this like really shaped my character and my image or whatever, but
Probably a lot more than you think it did.
maybe.
Oh, I would think so, yeah. And I mean, I know what you're saying. White people look at you, you're black. What about black people when they look at you?
And so that's another like,
do they?
I gotta call out my black brothers and sisters, man, because one of the hardest things to be, I think, in this world when it comes to this racial tension is to be a mixed person. And because what I heard all of my life was, you're not that black. You're not, you don't know, you don't get to share that experience that we have as a black person. I'm like, and for me, I'm just like, are you kidding me? And to be honest, I know people way blacker than me, like 100 times blacker than me, that have not had the same extreme racial experiences that I've had, right? Like I do really have a good excuse to be, you know, angry and bitter and whatever. But the fact of the matter is, when you see people, you realize that people hurt, you know, the same ways. They and they do things to cover up that hurt, to cover up that that covering up of like the differences of other people, or just to feel superior or included. At the end of the day, I think people really just want to feel included. And I didn't grow up using the N-word, right? It was forced upon me because, you know what, my white friends, they would all use it, but like, it didn't necessarily mean a black person. It just meant a person that's not, you know, functioning correctly in society, we'll call it that. Right?
Well, I think when I grew up, we were so saturated with American media. We had very little Canadian media that I could tell you about some of the cartoons I watched as a kid. I mean, they were so blatantly racist. I mean, utterly blatantly racist.
Yeah.
The way that people were portrayed. Cartoons for kids.
Yeah.
And I remember singing a nursery rhyme and using the N-word in it, you know, and having no idea what it meant, but it was just like, and then my parents telling me, no, you know, don't say that word, use a different word.
Yeah.
So, but I really...
So your white parents that are, you know, quite old taught you not to use this word.
Yeah. Probably what shocks me the most is when you see people that will come out and use blatant racist terms in front of you without even so much as a thought. And I've had that happen. I've heard it mostly with against black people, but also against Jewish people and Latinos. And the funny thing is, I remember when my friend from Nicaragua, and I'm going like, oh, you must have experienced racism in Canada? And he goes, oh yeah, he says, you know, because they lived up Finch and Western Road, there was a very Latino community. And he goes, yeah, and I go, oh, that must be hard. And he goes, yeah, my wife and I and her sister and her husband were on the bus, and there was other Latino, we're all speaking Spanish, and this black guy turns around and says, too many damn Latino. He wasn't so polite with his words, but too many damn Latinos here. Yeah. And it was just not what I was expecting to hear. I was expecting, well, white people. So I think it's in all the communities, and it is mixed, but I'll hear things like that. But I think even more recently where I've heard somebody come out and maybe use the N-word, it's just like, and I'm just going like, are you serious? Do people like still use that today? And just not even think, they just don't like, don't you get what you've said? There were other things. I remember some people we knew had a pony, and it was called Little Black Sambo, and because it was a black pony, and it was a little. And I remember this black man came over with his daughter, and I was only about 5 or 6, and we were told, you're not allowed to call the pony that when he's here. You call him Sam or Sammy, but you don't call him that. Well, we had no idea, like we're just kids. But then once they left, it was okay to call the pony, what they had named him. But these were more country folk, and it was just like, that was considered really good manners and not racist. We might offend this black person, so we're not going to use those terms when they're here.
Right.
And then when they're gone, we're okay. And that was considered by the American media standards that we grew up with really good, because in the States they were
something similar. Like, if I was vocal about not wanting to hear this word around my white friends, they would, most of them would stop, the ones that actually cared or, gave a crap about me. But when I wasn't around, when I was, I know and I heard, and they still do right now, right this second. They still feel comfortable using the terms. But for me, as a colored individual, like that, the N-word, we'll call it what it is, like the word nigger. I have always felt apprehensive about it. I never thought it should be used. And today in 2020, I don't see a reason to actually use this term. And what really bothers me as a colored person is that colored people use it all the time, and you get mad at when a white person uses it, right? But if we're looking at the historical context and everything, like, a word is a word is a word is a word. And if we get mad at white people for using it, it's my opinion and educated opinion, we should not be using it either.
I understand what you're saying, but I really think it goes deeper than that, because that word was used to inflict such pain and degradation and dehumanization of people that I think in a way it is beneficial for people who experience the pain of that word to reclaim it as their own and to be able to...
See, that's a perspective I didn't think about.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think in cases like that, I think it is actually a good thing. You're reclaiming something that was used against you. There's a lot of power in how you say a word too. But I mean, the N-word is just totally different because it was never used in a positive manner.
It was never, from the inception of the word, it was always a subpar human or a sub whatever. It was a terrible word to be using.